You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. I want to bring in Reverend Dr. William J. Barber right now. Reverend Barber, first of all, glad to have you here. The poor are the most vulnerable right now with what's going on. When you're hearing these stories about people being turned away, when you listen to the White House task force say, hey, the people we're trying to test are those with the worst symptoms, yet we're hearing about people not even showing symptoms dying. I mean, we are, and then you got Trump up here, just so happy with testing. In fact, this was a question that was asked today by Yamiche Alcindor, PBS, and he's just touting how great testing is. Anthony, go to my iPad.
I know South Korea better than anybody. It's a very tight. Do you know how many people are in Seoul? Do you know how big the city of Seoul is? 38 million people. That's bigger than anything we have. 38 million people, all tightly wound together. We have vast farmlands. We have vast areas where they don't have much of a problem. In some cases, they have no problem whatsoever. We have done more. That's very hard. I know South Korea better than anybody. It's a very tight. Do you know how many people are in Seoul? Do you know how big the city of Seoul is?
Come on. So now, here's the problem with that, Reverend Barber. One, he's a dumbass. There are not 38 million people in Seoul. There are only 9.8 million people in Seoul. There are 51 million people in the entire country, but he knows Seoul better than anybody else. I mean, we're dealing with sheer incompetence from this idiot in the Oval Office.
Yeah, and from a preacher standpoint, Roland, we're dealing literally with evil. Now, I don't say that too often, but I was reading this morning Zechariah 7 and 10, where it says, do not oppress the widow, the fatherless, the sojourner, or the poor, and let none of you devise evil against other folk. In other words, when you do policies like this, the scripture actually calls it evil. And when you talk about black people and poor people in the South, black and poor, these states were already the states that denied Medicaid expansion because they hated Obama. That means many rural hospitals closed in the South or are already undermanned in this process. And so this is total ineptitude and will cause major deaths. My daughter, Roland, is a PhD from Harvard in public health. She's advising the Poor People's Campaign along with Dr. Mary T. Bassett, director of the Francois Xavier Center for Health and Human Rights at Harvard. And listen to what she just wrote me. This is a woman who used to be with public health in New York. She said the absence of a coordinated response from the federal government has left states to fend for themselves and in some cases compete for life-saving supplies. As we've seen with other epidemics, communities that have long been subjected to racist and unjust policies, people of color, people living in poverty, and immigrants will be harmed the most by this botched response. That this response in itself will have a racist impact economically, but also from the standpoint of sheer death. And so once again, we are seeing what someone who is just racist at his core in his policy and backwards in his policy is going to create even more harm in our communities.
And obviously, we talk about forcing states to fend on their own. Is exactly what's happening. In fact, you have states competing for equipment because you've got Trump basically questioning whether they even need additional equipment.
Right. Not listening to because when I have talked, I have three public health people now advising us. They said the first thing you do, Roland, with an epidemic is you put eyes on it. So the first thing they should have done is the moment it was breaking out in China, we should have already been over there. We should have already been over there before it ever got here, before the first case, because you have to put eyes on it in order to deal with it. We missed all of that, botched all of that. And notice, he's acting like 100 or 200,000 people dying is a good thing. Now, you have to understand that mentality, though. Before this ever broke out, 700 people are dying from poverty every day, 250,000 a year. And he claimed last year that the war on poverty was over, even though 61% of black people are poor and low wealth. So we're dealing with somebody who, and an administration that has, and an ideology that has a long history that that really does not value other people's lives, and particularly poor people and minority people. You know, when I looked at this bill, you're talking about $2 trillion that he signed last week on top of $1.5 trillion for Wall Street a few weeks ago. Now, think about it. A few weeks ago, they were saying we didn't have money. We didn't have money for health care. We didn't have money for expanding living wages. All of a sudden now we have all of this money for the corporate. And there's a doctrine called the shock doctrine. Lady, you know that book. I think you told me about it. She wrote it in 27. She's a Canadian at 2007. And she said that what happens in disasters in the midst of the shock, the greedy will use that shock to transfer more money into their own coffers. So what we had last week is $1 trillion bill, no provisions for permanent living wages. 54% of black people make less than a living wage. No provisions for paid sick leave for everybody. A lot of our people work in jobs they don't have sick leave. No provision for health insurance for the uninsured. The majority of the homeless, the undocumented immigrants, the disabled, and prisoners, there was really nothing substantial in that bill. And anybody too poor to have filed taxes, a lot of our people won't even get the basic income that they're talking about you'll be able to have. And then lastly, that bill last week only delays eviction. You know where it says you get to put the eviction on for three months, but the bill is still being added up. So after the 3 months, you either have to have the money that you didn't have the 3 months and pay that. And there was no provision in there to stop people water from being cut off, even though to protect yourself from this disease, you need warm water and soap.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, so a lot of y'all are always asking me about some of the pocket squares that I wear. Now, Robert don't have one on. Nope. Now, I don't particularly like the white pocket squares. I don't like even the silk ones. And so I was reading GQ magazine a number of years ago, and I saw this guy who had this pocket square here, and it looks like a flower. This is called a shibori pocket square. This is how the Japanese manipulate the fabric to create this sort of flower effect. So I'm going to take it out and then place it in my hand so you see what it looks like. And I said, man, this is pretty cool. And so I tracked down, it took me a year to find a company that did it. And so they make these about 47 different colors. And so I love them because, again, as men, we don't have many accessories to wear, so we don't have many options. And so this is really a pretty cool pocket square. Now, what I love about this here is you saw when it's in the pocket, you know, it gives you that flower effect like that. But if I wanted to also, unlike because if I flip it and turn it over, it actually gives me a different type of texture. And so therefore, it gives me a different look. So there you go. So if you actually want to get one of these shibori pocket squares, we have them in 47 different colors. All you got to do is go to RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. All right, so first of all, that graphic is way too small. So tomorrow we're going to run it right down here all across the screen. So it's RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. All you got to do is go to my website and you can actually get this. Now, for those of you who are members of our Bring the Funk fan club, there's a discount for you to get our pocket squares. That's why you also got to be a part of our Bring the Funk fan club. And so that's what we want you to do. And so it's pretty cool. So if you want to jazz your look up, you can do that. In addition, y'all see me with some of the feather pocket squares. My sister, who's a designer, she actually makes these. They're all custom made. So when you also go to the website, you can also order one of the customized feather pocket squares right there at RolandSMartin.com/pocket squares. So please do so. And of course, that goes to support the show. And again, if you're a Bring the Funk fan club member, you get a discount. This is why you should join the fan club. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it.